This is still the morning show here on Signature TV. What comes to mind when you hear the name Chief Odumegu Ojukwu? What comes to your mind? I'm sure you must have heard, read, or even heard a lot of story about him. Some say he's a brave man. Some say he's a warmonger. Some say someone who took the bull by the horn, giving what parameters, giving what activities happened at the time that it happened between 1967 and 1960, and even building up to 1967 when the war started and ended 3 years later. But not so much has been heard about when he went on exile to Ivory Coast. Not so much. I mean, did you hear anything? Have you seen any book written or anybody speak about when he left for exile in Ivory Coast? Well, you have the privilege of knowing a little more about that today, because we have a senior aide to Odumegu Ojukwu himself at that time. He would give us a little insight of what really happened, the build up to the exile, while he was in exile, and possibly who visited him, what activities he embarked upon while he was there, and in the end, of course, what happened when that exile was called off. We have with us live in the studio this morning, Kanayo Esenulo. He is an author, a leader, a thought leader, an Igbo thought leader. Good to have you. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure, really. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, you have written extensively about so much about Igbo political leadership, but let's speak a little bit about Odumegu Ojukwu. You were his media aide at the time that he, was the leader of the Igbos at the time. What kind of person was he?
Good question. That's the question that keeps popping up every time, because a lot of people believe that Emeka's real character manifested during his days in exile. Exile is not the best vacation for any person. You had to start afresh. And that was exactly what happened. It took about 5-6 months for him to find his feet and begin something to feed himself and his family. I think at a particular point, Emeka complained that he didn't want to be fed, that he needed to rehabilitate himself. It was at that point that Hufo Boanye, he told us, asked him, what do you want to do? What type of business do you want? Do you want to go back to school? He then said he wanted to go into business. That is from a family of transporters. If you remember the Ojukwu transport when we were small, talking about the 50s and 60s, we were just growing up those days. And Emeka started with 12 trucks that evacuated sand, white sand, from the beaches to construction sites. So he started low.
In Ivory Coast?
In Ivory Coast. And within a period of 6 months to 1 year, the 12 trucks that he bought, with the money given to him by Hufo Boy, Emeka did not leave this country with $1. In fact, he was fond of the language, I didn't store away the people's treasury. I'm using his vocabulary. Empty-handed. But in a year, within a year of his exile, Emeka had multiplied triple time what Hufo Boye made available for him to start business. And it was exile is loneliness. People don't understand. The first person who broke that jinx, if you like, who visited him, I'm not talking about Dr. M.Y. Okpara coming in from Ireland I'm not talking about the other Igbo people in the diaspora. I'm talking about Nigerians realizing that somebody, one of them, is almost stranded in Ivory Coast. A good host, Hufo Bonye was. Fantastic host. But Emeka was lonely. The man won't leave his presidential duties in Abidjan and come to Yamoussoukro, his own village. So Emeka was lonely. The person who broke that jinx was Professor Wole Soyinka.
Really?
Oh, yes. 1971. Professor Wole Soyinka visited us. Picked him up from the airport. And he stayed. He told Emeka, more or less the driver then, that I will stay 3 days. He ended up staying 3 weeks because the Emeka wouldn't want him to go. And how did we link up with Wole Soyinka? That's what a lot of people begin to ask me. You know, we go to Wole Soyinka in Accra when Emeka gave orders for me to come. I was in Accra then. He said, come and get briefed. Wole Soyinka will be is in Africa. I don't know where, but he might be spending some days in Accra with his best friend then, Rajat Nyuchi, a Ugandan, who was then publishing Transition magazine. Catch him there. Because for almost 3 months we were looking for Wole. Chinua was inaccessible. So we needed Wole. And when I caught him at Dakmak House, 2nd floor. And I told him that General Chukwemeka Ojukwu is inviting you to Yamoussoukro. And he came in. Not immediately. He made a promise that tell him I'm going back to London. He was then a global citizen. He was also running away from Yakubu Gowon's government. Yeah. He was running away from Yakubu Gowon's government. So he eventually fulfilled his promise to visit him. And from 3 days, he stayed 3 weeks because Emeka wouldn't want him to go. Yeah. So that's what really happened.
So what activities was he into when he was on exile?
His main business was transportation.
Okay.
He later diversified into construction. That's why he had the company Seresi. Seresi was a construction company. Big construction.
Okay.
So sometimes I tell my friends that if you see these beautiful skylines of Abidjan, those 25-story buildings, it's Seresi construction.
Is the business still in existence?
Oh yes, his business was expanding. And Emeka chooses, like his father, he told us, the best hands in anything. For example, I know that the general manager was in charge of administration, in charge of his security, was Pierre Baranger. He's a French retired army colonel. How he recruited him, no person knew. I think it was on the recommendation of the French government to Hufo Bonye. And he took him. So we cooperated with all the good advice that came in from Hufo Bonye's presidency. You take this person, you take this producer at that television, mix him up, and you get results. So basically, that's how he started rehabilitating himself until it became obvious to him that certain elements within the Gowon government were making things very difficult for those who, I won't say participated, those who helped in sustaining the struggle in Biafra. And the person I will mention his name, and he's in the book, is the Amanyanabo of Bonny.
Amanyanabo of Bonny. How was it?
The Amanyanabo of Bonny accompanied Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu to Addis Ababa.
Okay.
For peace talks in 1968. That was the peace talks that many people believed will facilitate the end of the war. Because Gowon was expected in Addis. Emeka was expected. Gowon never showed up. After Aburi, he was avoiding Emeka like snake. Of course, you know, he floored him in Aburi. He floored him and his team. Timothy Omobaret, Mobolaji Johnson, David Ejo, all of them, versus one man. What was a minimum of Bonny's main offense? He accompanied the Emeka to Addis Ababa to do what? To buy arms? To recruit pilots? No. He went for peace talks. He collapsed. So after the war, the man was rejected, refused entry into, first of all, into Rivers State, secondly, into his throne. He almost died here in Enugu, but for Okpa Abiasika, we give him that credit. Emeka had all the reports. Okpa Abi rehabilitated him, took care of his failing health. Failing health. So when we got this report, that was my first entry into Nigeria, carrying an interesting passport. So I came here in 1971 and traced him to Aba, not Enugu. I came to Enugu first. They said he was getting better health-wise and that he had requested Okpa Abi to relocate him to Aba so that he could be nearer Port Harcourt and nearer Bonny, his place. Yeah. So I met him at Aba, Port Harcourt Road. The photograph is here, the book.
Wow.
How we talked.
Why was it only Wole Soyinka that had the opportunity to see Odumegwu at the time?
We were sending a lot of invitation to a lot of people.
Okay.
Wole responded positive.
So every other person did not.
Because don't forget that Yakubu Gowon was not folding his hands. The intelligence services were all around Emeka, and he's also. For instance, I spent 3 years in Kirikiri. It's in the book. What did I do? Emeka in Nigeria was the president of Biafran Students Union. In Biafra. At the end of the war, he graduated in political science and got a job with a company in Lagos and was coordinating field contacts for him or for us. Because that time we had formed a body. Not a body to come and fight Nigeria, not a body to come and disorganize Yakubu Gowon's government, not a body to create problems for him, not a body to interfere in his governance style. We wanted to know he wanted to know what was happening to our people. And when I say our people somewhere, they said, just the Igbos. I said, no. Igbo land was not Biafra. It extended beyond Igbo land. Emeka was in contact with Okoko, them, Wamedimo, and the rest of them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are so many accounts of that particular incident, but I'm just wondering, given our Igbo political history and given what we have right now, how do you think the Biafran War affected our growth in that environment?
Eastern Nigerian environment?
Yes, with that of Nigeria.
Of course it affected us. Producer, it affected us. He knew. Because he was monitoring events. And when it became obvious that Olusegun Obasanjo in 1978 was in the mood to democratize Nigeria. We started preparing for 1979. He formed a body known as PDF, Popular Democratic Front. If you want to talk to Emeka Ojukwu for your anticipated victory at 1979 election, you have to come and talk to PDF. He formed that body. So he wasn't shy about it. And we started operating. And when Shehu Shagari was won, not proclaimed the victor, he won, we came in. He didn't come in immediately. He pushed me in. I came in December 1979. And Emeka, being a deep thinker, said, you go in. I hear from grapevine that you cannot escape National Youth Service, so you are going to do youth service. But try to stay in Lagos for accessibility. So we can be in touch if you're in Lagos. I went to NYSC Surulere. It was then in Surulere, their headquarters, and they told me that they can't put me in Lagos, that Lagos was full. A pregnant woman, is in the book, called me and said, can you serve in my state, Ogun State? It's 40 minutes or 45 minutes away from Lagos. I go for weekend, every weekend. Every weekend I go to Abeokuta, my state capital. You like Abeokuta? That's how I served in Ogun Radio. And after service, Emeka insisted that I have to work with Chris Okoli.
Okay.
Chris was then the publisher of New Brain magazine. Is in the book, including even his appointment letter to me. But I worked there for 3 months. I ran away.
Why is that?
Chris's temper. I couldn't stand it. So Emeka said, you want to be unemployed in a country like Nigeria? Then from Ivory Coast, he started pushing for me to be in NTA. I worked in NTA for 3.5 years. How did I get to NTA? I don't know any person. I've left this country since 1970. So how did you get a job at NTA so easily? Emeka had to talk to Dr. Olu Onogaruwa of blessed memory. And I was invited for interview. Having been invited for interview, I passed and started work with NTA. Then the next phase, Shehu Shagari was in power. The next phase was Emeka's coming home.
Yeah, from the exile.
From exile. That's why the book is titled Diplomacy. Exile, Diplomacy, and Survival. Strategically, he located Chobo Kadibo and told me that the only person who can help us or facilitate my homecoming is the political advisor to Shehu Shagari. We have to work on him. How do I get access to Emeka calls him a rascal. So I had to go to our boss, Victor Folivi of blessed memory. He said, I want to interview Chobo Kadibo. He said, on what issues? He said, go and put it in writing. I went downstairs to the newsroom and drafted my questions. He knocked off 2 from 12 to 10 and gave me Salam Salahuddin. They're all mentioned here. They're all living witnesses. Gave me Salam Salahuddin. So when I went to Chobo Kadibo's office, it became obvious that Salam Salahuddin and the technical team that followed me for that interview had to be kept away for now. I asked Choba's secretary, one fair colored Asabaga from her Igbo accent. He said, I want to see the doctor before my team. He said, yeah. When I went upstairs and told, I saw Choba Okadeba, I told him, Doc, this is a contrived interview. I planned this interview to gain access to you. You have a message from Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu from exile. The man was taken aback. I think the first thing that must have occurred to Choba was, maybe this man is a plant, a mole, or a setup. I don't know which one was going on in his head. But I tell you, producer, there is God. At that particular juncture, Dr. George Obiozo came in.
Wow.
George, who was our PG, President General of Ohanese, who was Nigerian ambassador in Sweden, in US, American and Nigerian ambassador in Israel, came in and shouted my name. If you shout that name, I will know you knew me in secondary school.
Okay.
My nickname.
Okay.
So what are you doing here? I said I brought a message to doctor from General, but he's not listening to me. He's not giving me any attention. I was then around 29, 30. He said, he told Choba, it's in the book, these things are recorded. If there is any person in this country who can speak for Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, for now, is that this young man sitting in front of you. It was then, and after that statement, I think he came for to take some papers. He gave him the papers and he left. Choba opened up to me. He said, yes. What message? That's why we use the word diplomacy. So we met. I told him, I said, if you don't mind, you can speak to him.
Okay. Interesting conversation, really. But I'm just wondering, the inspiration around writing this particular book. I can imagine you looking through the archives and nothing that was documented about his exile. And it's largely not even spoken about. Everybody talks about the war, talks about the aftermath of the war, talks about the influence and the effect of the war, but no particular reference to why he was away, because it does feel like nobody wanted to associate it with him. He has lost a war. He has left his people. So many names was given to him at the time that he left for Ivory Coast. But I'm still thinking, do you feel the isolation at the time was something that was needed for him to, recalibrate and then come back strong? And then even when he came back, he wasn't as influential as he was just before the exile. So did you think that the exile did harm on his influence, on his personality, so much so that when he came back from the exile, he wasn't as influential? Even people that he led started, going away and, taking themselves away from him.
Yeah, his coming back had its own controversiality. Let me start from where you began. His exile days were spent thinking about our people, what was happening here, how our people were treated. He monitored the so-called 3R, reconstruction, reconciliation. To him, it was all grammar. And we tried to get that message across to the international community. If if he became less influential on his return or after his return, it was because he entered partisan politics. Some of us had argued against it. It's in the book. And in this book, I made it clear to the reader that at our last meeting, after the announcement was done, I brought the news about the announcement because Choba didn't want to share the glory with anybody. He called me, said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the newsroom in NTSA. I'm sending somebody to you." And I saw his driver. Organicwa, what is all this? I work for NTL. These are the people who are paying me 555 naira a month. Level 9. One guy them here one day, they will give me a letter of suspension. You know, the driver started laughing. He said, "No," he said, "I should bring you. I will bring you back to NTA because it's just a distance of 15 minutes. And I told him, "No. I will follow you, but I will drive behind you. Because you people have promised I will take you and bring you back." When you finish, in all fairness to the secretary, the person had gone for another errand, on another errand, totally. So it was there was the need for me to drive myself, park where they will not block me, because that office was really very busy then. And that was how I escaped that their delay tactics. I went in, and Choba told me, "You have to leave for Abidjan." We just came back for. He said, "You have to leave for Abidjan. I've spoken to Victor Folili, your boss. I've just spoken to him, but I didn't give him details." Gagwea, that 3 hours ago we took a decision. The government of Shehu Shagari took a decision to announce pardon for him, unconditional. And Achorom, that's how Choba put it, Achorom, honor from any other source except through me, using you. I left for Abidjan that afternoon. Emeka was not even at the airport to pick me up, his PA, an Ivorian, seconded from the presidency. He wasn't there. So I had to, immediately I came into this, say, Sava, that they have not seen Emma since 2 hours, that it appeared he traveled, probably to Accra, because he was waiting for Ghana Airways. Some other person countered it, said no, he didn't travel again. He's in Abidjan. That was how I took a taxi to Emeka's office. As soon as the taxi was entering into Emeka's office, Emma was driving in. He rushed to pay the taxi driver. He said, normally when you come, before you come, you notify us. We'll wait for you at the airport since you left back home. What is the problem? I said, when we go inside. So we went inside. Emeka was in the office upstairs. And Emeka said, how did you come in without announcing, telling us, and we do our usual protocol?
Yeah.
So you see this one, other pattern and buried. What's him other come? He said yes. Chubo Kadibo Songwa. I spoke in Igbo directly. I said, Chuba Simbiagwa and I gave my announcement to Chinega and Ata. Emeka was, he sat well. I remember, I have the picturist in my head. He sat well. Say yes. But if you know Emeka very well, if you know him very well, he must have gotten a hint of the information from either the presidency, Hufo or from French intelligence. But I want an idea. But on matter of the day I made the announce. Instead of take a decision, some was taking yesterday, this afternoon, about 3 hours ago. And I was at a meeting in NTA. The driver came in and insisted that if he goes back without, if he went back to office without me, that he will be queried. So that's how I refused to join his car, because it had happened twice or thrice. I will bring you back. I will bring you back to NTA. At the end of the day, the driver that brought you is nowhere to be seen. He had been sent on another errand.
Oh, wow.
So that was how Emeka got the news that the government of President Hufo Boanye should be ready to release him to Nigeria, that Nigeria now, he can re-enter Nigeria without any condition. And as I talk to you here now, I give the credit to Chuba Okadibo. That is why there is a portion in this book that tells you Dr. Okadibo orders me to General Ojukwu with the good news. That's chapter 9. And I told you the nitty-gritty that led. But I tell you something. While giving the credit to Chuba Okadibo, there were others who also stuck out their neck. One of them was Dr. Ibrahim Tahir. Ibrahim Tahir was almost partially responsible for the provocation of that topic at their MPN caucus meetings. Chuba was there to soften the ground, but the man who spoke to their caucus with force and dynamism was Dr. Ibrahim Tahir. And Victor Masi, let's give credit to people who facilitated the Emeka's camp. But let me come to your 3-arrow question. How did his influence plummet downwards when I wouldn't know? Because after the announcement, I went back to came back to Nigeria, because it was just 2 days off duty. Although I took 3 days, I had to explain to Victor Folivi. When it became obvious that he was coming, we started forming committees: transportation committee, publicity committee. In the publicity committee was Balabo Ogunsowo, a great admirer of Chukwuemeka Odumegwu Ojukwu, and Obi-Wan Naj here in the East. I was coordinating them. We arrived at Bijou for the critical, crucial, strategic meeting. Freddie Forsyth was there. Emeka was there. Shedrack Emeje was there. Emeka was there. I was there. Osei Poku was there, a Ghanaian editor. And we shared response. Colonel Achuze was there. He had to come in. And we shared responsibilities. And you will announce, Emeka will announce your responsibility and tell you to give us a budget. If you didn't come with any, you can do the arithmetic later. Myself and Osei Poku did not present any budget.
Why is that?
Because the two people who were working for us here in the publicity area did not demand anything. Balabo Ogunsowo did every coordination of the Lagos-Ibadan Express without asking a kobo. When Emeka sent message to Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Malabo coordinated it. I haven't met the sage before. And the idea of going to meet Chief Obafemi Awolowo fascinated me, a historical figure. But he refused to meet us. Malabo said, I am not taking you to Chief Obafemi Awolowo. Let Dr. Tai Sholarim do that. We went to Mayflower School, packed our car, myself and Vincent Obiano, his photograph is here. His photograph is here. And when we went, it eventually became obvious to us that the chief didn't want to see us. He didn't want to meet us one-on-one. He didn't want. And it became obvious that he was passing messages to Ojukwu via Tai. What was the message? That he had no attitude.
This book will be launched this week. What is expected? Where is the location of this launch? Who is expected to come for the launch? And how can people attend? You know,
I think it is a free venue.
Okay.
It's free venue. It's at Enugu Sports Club, golf section.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. And it starts by 10:30 a.m.
Okay.
On Thursday.
On Thursday.
30th January. Okay. Yes.
What would be the special takeaways? What would people expect to get when they come for this launch? What is for you the
they will meet the author answering one or two questions, but I'm not going there to review a book I wrote. Okay. Let the others review. Okay. I'm not going there to tell any story beyond this book. And this book, I must tell you, producer, is exclusive in the sense that who knew, for instance, when I took the book to Wole Soyinka through Dr. Yemi Ogumbi in Ikeja, he wasn't there. They said he was in US. I said, give him this book. Let him read chapter 3. Because when I went to see him, Gladys didn't want me to see him because Gladys is the secretary to Rajat Nuj. I said, I must see him. Oh. He said, how did you know he's here? I said, I know he's here. Emeka has intelligence. Emeka gets intelligence, yeah, and he pays for it. Right. How he knew that Wole Soyinka, who was then in UK, was coming into Africa, he was avoiding Nigeria because of Yakubu Gowon. Coming, will be in Accra, will not be in his popular hotel. His hotel of choice in Accra then was Avenida Hotel. So, how did he come in? He was no longer staying in his hotel. He is now relaxing in the vast compound and building near the airport of Rajat Nuj. So Gladys didn't want to, he wanted to know how I knew that. I said, that's my business, Gladys. I've come here before to buy a magazine. You know, that's how. So sports club.
Okay, golf section. On Thursday by 10:30.
30th of January.
30th of January. On the final note, are today's political leaders, talking about leaders who we have employed since 1999 up until this moment. What do you think that they lack that Ojukwu had?
Emeka is slightly different. Not even slightly different. Emeka is enormously different. Emeka, like Ndebanye, is a typical Igbo man.
Recording in progress.
Can you go to Oxford come back from Oxford in 1952 and choose to work at Woody as ADC, Assistant District Officer, ADO, when your father was employing Europeans in Lagos in all his companies? His humility is infectious. I was going to Udi for the traditional wedding of Emeka Nigeria's daughter. And I asked the driver, I was sitting in front with the driver. I said, when we reach Udi, tell me. He said, oh, well, we've entered Udi about 5 minutes ago. I'm talking of 2003 or 4. Udi was still rural. By my estimation, it was still rural. I said, this was where Emeka came in 1952 to be ADC. It tells you his character. The son of Salui, who employed Europeans in Lagos and the other branches of his offices, lived here in 1952-53 DO. That's Emeka for you. And it was from DO, Udi, it was transferred to, promoted to DO, full, to Aba. And from Aba, I think he made up his mind to join the military. That is the kind of, if they snowed him down politically here, it wasn't that they don't like Emeka. Maybe we could attribute it to his choice of political platform. But I tell you, at that critical meeting I was referring to, where allocation of responsibilities for the committees were done. After that, I told him, and it's reflected in this book, and I want any person still alive who attended that meeting to confirm. I told Emeka, almost the hearing of half of the population that attended that meeting, that as soon as you touch ground on Isi, I would like to rest since 1970. Now that I have married and I have 2 sons. And my second son is Emeka. He dropped me here. Because my wife had that baby on March 24, that's Emeka's birthday. And I had to be in Abidjan to see Emeka March 25. If you know Emeka, he exploded. We're all expecting you. I said, yes, Your Excellency. I tried to read the phone, but I couldn't get a phone. I don't have a phone in my house. And NT, I don't know what is happening to the phone. And in any case, my wife had a baby yesterday. If you know Emeka, can't call it Elani. His anger turned 100% round. He was happy with me. Can't call it Elani. Say, okay, Banya Emeka. That's what this boy is Emeka T today. You know, wow. He had that dramatic influx when it comes to certain things. Can't call it Elani.
Fantastic. Because
I had to justify why they were waiting for me at the airport yesterday, and I didn't come, and I couldn't communicate. There was no GSM that time, yeah. And I had no phone at home. And Mount Sinai Hospital at Ebute Meta, I couldn't use their phone. I drove to NTA. The phones were down. I don't know whether they were owing Nitel. So I made it the following day. And in any case, there's no visa restriction for you to enter Ivory Coast if you're a Nigerian.
Okay.
So I entered, and Emeka wanted to know why I kept everybody waiting the previous day. Say, my wife, Mama, I've never done it before. I was apologizing. Can't call it line. You know, somebody who was in shock. Can't call it line. He said, no, okay, Banya Emeka. And that ended that anger, that ended that discussion, that ended that argument. That's Emeka for you.
Wonderful. Let's leave it here, just because of time. Kanayo Esinulo, many thanks for your time and your
insight. It's my pleasure, producer.
Charles.
Charles Biko Dalo.
Thank you so much. We're going to come around to actually see what's up with the book and also hear some other insights about
Exactly.
So that's for Thursday.
The book is worth reading. It's worth reading because there was a question you asked. Why the book? I didn't want somebody else to tell the story, to fill that gap, exile life. No. This book could have been out long time ago. But
here we are. Finally.
Here we are. That is the word.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
All right. We're back shortly after the break. Do stay with us.